the break, we asked how long has Lennox been on doggy death row? And the answer is 2 years.
Thank you very much and welcome back to Wednesday's show with David Bull, Larry Turner and the one and only Marco Pierre White. We'll bring you the rest of the headlines shortly, but first, it's not a story you'll have seen very often in the papers, but it's nevertheless a story all the same. The family barred from saying goodbye to their dog on doggy death row. 0207 173 5555 is the number if you've got a view on what some are calling rough justice. Lennox is a bit of a mongrel, truth be told. He's part Labrador, part Staffy and part American Bulldog, which is not a pit bull, by the way. And he joined the Barnes family from Belfast as a pup 7 years ago. The Pooch Mad family, they've got 2 other dogs at present. Julie had Lennox chipped, neutered, pet safe registered and licensed. They still have dog licenses in Northern Ireland. But they ran into problems 5 years later when a council dog warden paid the Barnes family a visit and rather curiously to deliver paperwork relating to another of their pets. Lennox was subsequently seized by the council after being deemed a dangerous dog. Of course, one question is he? As I said, he's a mongrel with no blood link to any of the 4 banned breeds, but he was classified as being of pit bull type due to the dimensions of his head. The law allows exemptions to the automatic death sentence for danger dogs if you can prove they're not dangerous. Now, the council argues that Lennox has a severe personality defect and poses a risk to strangers. The Barnes family expert, though, described him as a well-handled, wonderful family pet. Whatever. Last week, the family lost their final appeal, and Lennox is now expected to be put down any day. For the purposes of this show, I have to say we could argue all day as to whether Lennox qualifies as a dangerous dog or not, and we would get nowhere. But we can question whether Belfast Council is right to have barred the Barnes family from even seeing their pet since the day he was seized 2 years ago. The council told us that no decision as to a final farewell visit has been taken yet, but I wonder if that is a good enough answer after having impounded the dog 2 long years ago. Well, joining me on the phone now is Lennox's human mum, Caroline. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning, Matthew. How are you today?
Thank you for joining us on the phone. Have there been any developments, first of all? Are you going to see Lennox?
As of yet, we haven't been given any decision. We are having another meeting with our legal team tomorrow and hope to have some good news from the council. But the way things have gone, in the last 2 years, I don't hold out much hope that they would be compassionate enough to let us see him one last time.
Now, I know your daughter Brooke is very close to Lennox, so she must be suffering quite a bit.
She is. I mean, Brooke's initial reaction was that it was her fault that he was seized because she was at school, and if she had been at home and they seen how Lennox was her best friend, that they would never have taken him. Obviously, we explained to her, as parents, that if we couldn't stop it, she wouldn't have been able to. But as an 11-year-old child, that was her mindset, that it was her fault because she wasn't at home.
Okay. Now, as I said, we're not going to have a phone-in as to whether Lennox is a dangerous dog or not, because I don't think we're going to get very far with that. I want to hear from people about the compassion or lack of it that's been shown to you by the council. But I would like to know, it's the only question I'm going to ask you, Caroline, is this claim by the council that he poses a risk to strangers? Or what do you know about that allegation, that claim?
Well, the council did admit in open court that the 5 years that Lennox was in our care, that they never had any member of the public complain about him. And since Lennox has been in their care, Lennox has caused no disturbance. He hasn't bitten or attacked anyone. They are saying that Lennox does have personality disorder, that he is dangerous. But obviously we have had several experts see him that are and have some sort of video evidence to show the court that during the test that he is not dangerous. They say that he is dangerous, but yet in the 2 years they've had him, they have never taken any video evidence to show that what they're saying is true. And I believe they haven't taken the video evidence because it's not available to take, because he is not a dangerous dog.
Okay. Well, Caroline, I want to speak to the panel. I want to thank you for joining us on the phone. And I have to say, as one dog lover to another, I really, truly and sincerely hope the council shows some compassion to you, the family, and actually in my heart of hearts, I hope they show some compassion to Lennox. Thank you. David, Let's talk about compassion, first of all. You've got a 14-year-old girl who's heartbroken, and it's within the council's power to allow her to see her pet.
I think this is a really strange case, you know.
It is curious.
Well, because from my point of view, I think the Dangerous Dogs Act is a good thing, you know,
It's poor legislation. It's badly drawn up.
It's how you use it, isn't it? So, you know, we know there are 6,000 hospital admissions every year because of dogs. We also know that does not include those people who go to A&E and so on. So there is a problem, and the Act was brought in, I think, in 91, wasn't it? And then revised again in 97. So that's one thing. What surprises me about this is that if you believe that a dog is a dangerous dog, then clearly that falls under the remit of the law. What doesn't seem right to me is that this dog was chipped, was licensed, and so therefore must have been seen by a vet, must have been accepted that this dog was not illegal.
And there was no allegation of him biting anybody? Or
not at all. And so suddenly the council then decides 5 years later that this dog actually falls within the Dangerous Dogs Act. And then they measured apparently the muzzle and the hindquarters and everything to see if the dog was then appropriate for that category. But it feels to me very heavy-handed of the council.
Larry?
I think it's a question of somebody having made a mistake and they can't bear to go back on it, and so they've just gone further and further down the road. I mean, I have got a little white Bichon, and when I see kind of pit bull type, staffy type dogs rushing towards me or her, I can, you know, and the people say, oh no, he's a lovely dog. He's got a collar with great big studs around it. And you're thinking, that's like a lovely dog to me. And I tend to pick up the dog, and I'm like, and I think I'll just take the dog home now. And I go, because you don't want to upset. It's the owner you worry about. You don't want to upset the owner, do you? But you've got this, you know. So I'm not in favour of any of those kind of dogs because I think they make everybody else really fear for their own safety and their dog's safety. But in this case, I don't know why they won't let the family see the dog. I mean, because actually, unless they're keeping it in such terrible conditions, they don't want the family to see how awfully they're treating the dog.
And also, they haven't seen it for 2 years, and they may feel that the separation would be even worse if you then saw, you know, well, it would be like seeing the dog on death row, wouldn't it? I don't know.
But we're allowed, I mean, the relatives of people on death row are allowed to see their family. I mean, that's, you know, you're not banned from seeing the family.
I just feel the council is not dealing with this very well.
Well, that may be the case. To me, it's a very curious story. It doesn't all add up. But what about to you, Marco?
Well, I think, firstly, what it does, it lacks sensitivity. It lacks empathy. There are small children involved. It's their family pet. They've grown up with it. And I think to take something away from a child is so devastating. It's so painful for a child, because a child doesn't understand. I think the councillor who's made this decision is being a bully, really. And I think he possesses logic of the madhouse. And I think also what he's highlighting is he's incapable of making a decision. Because what he's doing is allowing his emotions and his ego to make this decision.
But they
why should the family be denied access to the dog?
That bit I can't answer.
It's got to be the ego of the councillor. I'm sorry. He's made a decision. He may have made the wrong decision. But you know something? He has no humility. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they should be questioning him on his decision-making, because there's children involved who are being denied access to a pet which they grew up with. And I think it's as simple as that. Whether the dog should be put down or not, I don't know.
That's where I'm at. I mean, if the dog is seen to conform to the requirements that define a dangerous dog, then the law has to follow its consequence. But the idea that the family can be shut out from their pet's life just seems to be cruel.
There's got to be an alternative, though, to putting the dog down. I mean, come on, how much does it cost to look after a dog a week?
Well,
keep him in a cage.
The law is the law, and as David said, we've got 6,000 people being hurt every year. We read too often about people being killed or disfigured by dangerous dogs. It is, as I said, a very tricky decision, but you've heard from the panel. After the break, we're going to hear from you. Should Belfast Council show the Barnes family some compassion? Is it acceptable to effectively stonewall this family for 2 heartbreaking years and then telling them no decision about a farewell visit to Lennox has yet been made? Maybe you think Lennox shouldn't be destroyed at all. 0207 173 5555 is the number you need, and your calls will follow after these.
Who said last week that he's unhappy about the Lennox case? First Minister Peter Robinson, Jerry Adams or Martin McGuinness? Find out after the break. So who said last week week that he's unhappy about the Lennox case.